Thanks for joining us. Now, Special Prosecutor nominee Martin Amidu has asked for public support in combating corruption if approved by Parliament. The former Attorney General said the situation where some people enrich themselves on the back of the state should not be allowed to continue. Speaking before Parliament's Appointments Committee Tuesday, Mr. Amidu said the country will be free from corruption if there's a concerted effort in addressing the canker. Let's take a look at some Martin Amidu quotes. No, he said about corruption that corruption has done so much damage to this country. In conflict resolution, it's called structural violence. It's an invincible force that kills millions without anybody seeing it. Taking millions of cedis for oneself under illegal circumstances deprives people of good health, education, and all the development facilities you can think of. On resignation from the NDC, he says, when you are a potential public officer, you are supposed to exhibit neutrality. I don't need to make a formal resignation of anything. It's by operation of law. Well, on tribal comments, he said, it is unacceptable for the minority leader to use a tribal epoch to describe my people. It's offensive to me. His position on personal awards, he said, I don't like awards. When I won the judgment case at the Supreme Court, I was called by many NGOs to be offered awards, but I rejected it. I don't take awards. I refuse them. I always say it's not about me. I am a shy person. I don't like having the cameras on me. Even the camera on me now at this vetting is a problem for me. Martin Amidu saying that. On the Special Prosecutor's independence from the AG, he says, as a lawyer, if you sell your conscience to your colleague lawyer, you are a zombie. A lawyer is an independent contractor and must act as such. On the crime of hiding monies abroad, I have what it takes to trace monies put in accounts abroad. Having worked as the Interior Ministry, I know the security intelligence. If you hide your money abroad illegally, I will find it. Maybe they don't have to approve me, because if they do, I will find it. On his appointment, he says, I was nominated to the Supreme Court in 1999. I turned this down. The position of Special Prosecutor deems with a passion I have fought throughout my life. It's not the money, else I would have gone to the Supreme Court and retired on my salary. I accepted this because there's a job to do. I'm a credible person who will do this fairly, transparently, and without discrimination. On presidential ambition, he says, I was running mate in 2000. If I had presidential ambition, it would have been seen already. I don't even have money to bring people here to feed them. I'm not the type who has the resources to run presidential ambition. People have approached me to run independence, but I have told them I won't do what is impossible. And finally, we look at what he said on the measure, what he believes is the measure of the Office of Special Prosecutor's success. He said the success of the Special Prosecutor Office will not be measured by the number of people in jail, but the measure of the integrity of the organization I will leave behind. Let's stay with this story because we've been joined in the studio by a former chief of staff and a senior lawyer, Nana Ato Dadzie. Good morning, sir.
Well,
thanks so much for joining us. Good to have you.
Yeah.
So the appointment of Martin Amidu, first of all, you're satisfied with the appointment?
Yes, I think that Mr. Martin Amidu certainly has a lot, for him to cross over to be the appointee. He's a lawyer of long standing. He has all the experience, the practice. He's been an attorney general. He understands the nuances of this job. And I think that, yes, like he himself said yesterday, I watched a bit of what he said. He said, well, yes, he's subject to the Supreme Court decision, on his qualification, which are two things. We talk about eligibility and then the qualification, the two things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you believe he's eligible, he's qualified for...
No, actually, I know that. I think that for me, he's eligible. I mean, really, he has all that it takes to do this job. What should we be looking for? Somebody with a strong legal background. We also be looking for somebody who has a passion for the job, this kind of job. We also be looking for somebody who will be stable enough to, handle this very sensitive job. Yesterday, there were flashes of situations where, he got a little combative, where he took on people directly. You remember the portions on Dr. Obeda Samoa and Oblakwa, Kujetu, and all of that. I hope that he comes down and handles this job if he's given it. Because you are going to deal with the lives of people, and it is very, very important that we have a very mature and sober approach to this. I think that it's also important to note that the challenges of yesterday, you want to give credit to Parliament itself.
Okay.
They really think that, I think that the minority must have prepared very well. And they are expected to do this at all times, not only in this case.
Okay.
That's why they are all paid there, we must have Parliament stand up and do its job. I think that the public expectation must have been met substantially.
But there was a point about the minority members of Parliament. Some of their questioning seemed to be in a bit to settle a score of sorts with Martin Amidu.
Yeah, no, but Martin Amidu was controversial before he entered the studio, or the Parliament. You understand?
Yeah.
It's for obvious reasons. I mean, his past altercation and battles with all the Woyomes and whatnot. I mean, with NDC, with, like I'm saying, Obed Samoa, with they all came to the fore. So you were expecting this kind of battle to go on. He was not unmindful of the fact that the posture, his own posture, was bound to come up. Before he came in, I think the NDC had come out with a statement. And I read portions of their statement and understood what it was. It was very obvious that there was going to be a clash yesterday. Whether Martin Amidu was being put up as a hatchet man by the president or not was a matter that we see. Whether Martin Amidu was going to be opportunistic and just grab this situation, this open vacancy to do in his own people as it were. These are all matters we all anticipated would be raised.
Is this a matter of concern to you, that he may be a hatchet man, for instance?
No, it's not me, it's him. He's going to occupy an office. And I think that it is, yesterday, I think that he came very far. He went very far in trying to allay the fears of people that he was going to use that office for that purpose. You understand? For instance, when he went into that combat on Obeda Samoa and Ablakwa, I felt you should have pulled his punches back a little. Okay. You understand? His last statement was rather surprising, but I thought it came a shade too late and not too deep enough when he threw, is there an olive branch? To but I thought he should have gone ahead with the player, from what he said, to say, okay, I'm sorry. It would have deepened it. Right. But the fact that he did say it, meant that he was at least aware that things were not right.
So he went in there, he
Yes.
pulled no punches. At a point,
Yes.
he said what had to be said. But do you think that he reflected what really was on the ground? I mean, you were chief of staff at a point,
Yeah.
so you knew some of the things that were going on there. Do you think he reflected what was actually happening?
Oh, I mean, that's Mr. Martin. I mean, I've known Mr. Martin from university days right through PNDC, right? And he says it as it is, you know. So it's not really different Martin Amidu that I've known. That's it. And I know that he has very strong feelings about certain matters. He doesn't pull the punches, and I'm not surprised that it is. But I'm saying that in a public office, you know, there are certain other demands. You are dealing with all kinds of shades of persons, and I think that I know that probably he will be able to match up, you know, to show greater tolerance when it comes to the yeah.
But from what he has been saying, has he allayed those fears that he may have an agenda against people who are in your party?
From his interaction yesterday, you realize that he kept coming back, appealing to the other people or the audience that give me a chance. That it is too early to judge me. See what we'll do. In fact, he did say it, that our work will show for the kind of fruit we will bear. I mean, it will show that we are not, what do you call it, partisan or vindictive. I think that that one came out clearly from him, you see. But then again, it is he will have to assure people of that this kind of truth that he wants to put out. You know, people are nervous. You know, but I think that it is important for us to understand that when people are nervous, it's not because necessarily of partisanship. You understand? This office transcends governments.
Okay.
You must understand. The challenges we were facing yesterday were the challenges of childbirth, I'll put it. We were bringing forth a new institution. And on both sides, it was like, what would be the child, what would the child grow up to be? You understand? That's what I'm saying, that government is a continuum. So today, if I'm a minister in the NPP, I shouldn't feel it's a victory for me, because Martin Amidu is not, or that office is not supposed to be partisan. And that office will transcend NPP. You understand? So how will the next government also utilize that office? You understand? That is the danger. So that is why you want a uniform, a standard that will pass through it all. I don't think this office is about Martin Amidu.
Okay.
Yeah, this office is supposed to be an institution to combat corruption, which we all agree is a challenge. You know, everybody, there are certain things which I agreed here, that corruption must be fought. Yes, we must have an institution that deals with it strongly, you understand. But who should be there? Which is just for the meantime. And he says that, look, I want to be there. I want to use my strong energies now to have this institution set up that will leave a legacy that will ensure that corruption will be minimized in this country.
You raised a point about his demeanor, his temperament at a point, talking about how when you go to public office, you must make sure that you can tolerate all these sorts of people.
Yes.
Yeah. You think he has that mettle to be calm at times?
Well, yesterday he did go several times reassuring people that he can carry that through. But like I'm saying, I mean, this is a very challenging position. You know, you're going to deal with the wealth and monies of people and whatnot. But one thing I do know that he's normally, you know, he's very fair-minded. But it could be, it's a very grave office that I'm not surprised that yesterday he was put hard to give assurance. You know, and assurance is a bit. But like I said, I mean, this is Mr. Martin Amidu, my colleague, you know. I mean, he hits left, right, so he should be given a chance, that what I'm saying. But that is not to say that, like he himself said, that if they approve him here, which I believe they did by consensus, and you know, he passes the Supreme Court test, he didn't mention that, then he gets it. But that is another matter altogether.
Well, information we have is that he has been approved by the committee. The committee has decided to
absolutely. It was consensual. It was very obvious.
Last night, So it's just left for the various processes to go through.
Sure.
I remember listening to another contemporary of the two of you, John Ndebugri, on Newsfile. And he said that he is sure that Martin Amidu will resign eventually from this position.
Well, John Ndebugri and Martin are my colleagues. I think that Ndebugri is fairly right. If I do know Martin, if anybody attempts to go that far to try and influence him, I'm sure he will back out. He definitely will back out. That's why I'm saying that, you see, we should, as a nation, we should be happy that we are bringing forth an institution, not an individual. You know, I wish we would move the debate from Martin Amidu as a person to the office of Special Prosecutor. Assuming that he comes and the very first case, you know, they say, Martin, after this, you should look at it. So then I walk out. Then what happens? Do we drop the institution, you know? But it's a very, 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 very grave institution. There have been, in fact, it's not really new in the sense that, because in our history, we've had attempts at setting up, quote, special prosecutors, you know, AFIC, PNDC, you know, all that. I think Mr. Martin Amidu must have, if my memory serves me right, served as part some time ago, you know. So the question is, why were those institutions, or why did those institutions not survive up to today? Why did they fail? In some cases, internal corruption within the system. You understand? If we set up a special prosecutor's office and it turns out to be internally corrupt, you see, it's used to extort money, you have a problem. I heard him right with his experience. He did say that he was going to prosecute outsiders, but he will also prosecute people inside his own establishment who go out. We should be fearful of this and put structures in place which will ensure that there are protocols for dealing with cases. You know, and that's why you have prosecutors also walking down the street, you know, asking people, give me this or give me that, otherwise I'll file a complaint against you. That is a problem.
And yesterday I remember him mentioning that his legacy that he would like to leave behind is an organization that has integrity.
Yes, absolutely.
That has integrity.
Yes.
Also suggesting how he wants to make sure that the people hired are people who are people of integrity.
Absolutely.
So beyond the human resource, let's talk about the institution. What would it take to make it work?
Well, first of all, this is a very interesting situation we find ourselves in, and he finds himself in. This is an institution in which he wrote, is it a 21 or 23 page critique? 25 page critique. You know, of course, I mean, as an intellectual, I think Martin writes. He's a good writer too, you know. And he did a good critique. The essential challenge in this matter, I think that is not coming to the fore, is the role of the special prosecutor vis-a-vis that of the Attorney General. That is really where the fear is. Can we have an independent special prosecutor? Is it possible? Within the remit of our own constitution, you see, our Article 88 is very clear that the Attorney General has the power, is the only person who has the power to initiate and conduct prosecution of criminal cases, period. It's an article that is as well sui generis. The only person, is the only minister who has an article that is rammed up in the constitution. He performs a specific role, but he's also a minister for justice. to that extent, he goes to attend parliament, cabinet, and hobnobs with the president. But when it comes to performing his function as a attorney general, he owes no obligation to anybody. Let me give you an example of a judge. A judge, an ordinary judge, high court or whatever, relates to the chief justice on administrative matters. Chief justice can give him administrative instructions and directives. But when it comes to writing his judgment, he takes no instruction from the chief justice.
Okay.
He acts independently of his mind. You get me? That's perfect well. It is to his conscience and to his oath. You understand? Yesterday, a question was posed whether the Attorney General could issue what you term the nolle prosecutor.
Yeah.
I think the Attorney General they asked that very interesting question. That was actually the test of his independence, or the independence of that office. Mr. Mathamedu fought that case, that question. Lord, and eventually said, well, if the Attorney General or these were actually lawyers, they should be able to collaborate. That I have a difficulty with. You see, Attorney General is Attorney General. Those powers he shares with nobody. An independent special prosecutor is not intended to share the powers of the Attorney General. He's expected to be independent. To that extent, when you talk about collaborating in relation to prosecution, I have a problem with that. It's like saying that the judge who takes administrative instruction from the Chief Justice, when it comes to writing his judgment, collaborates with the Chief Justice. You have a problem with that. I have a problem. I think that it is not, I'm not the only one who has the problem with that. Is actually the point of Mr. Martin Amedu's 25-page critique. And he thought himself that that provision was slightly, might be unconstitutional. You get me? But you know what he says? He says, well, we need to fight corruption. It is necessary. We must start from somewhere. So let us, use what we have, and see how it develops. Let us not throw the baby
away with the bathwater.
You heard him say that.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to talk about.
Which is what's really, again, it would come down to the two individuals involved. Because if you are going to have an attorney general who can give instructions to a special prosecutor, then you need a special prosecutor who would be able to be independent in his mind, really.
Yeah, but I said that the two things, you see, when we come to collaborating, we are talking about sharing information about whatnot and all that. You see, but there's a question of authority, authorizing, prosecution. All the existing situations, the Attorney General authorizes the police to whatnot, to do this, to do that, to do that. Is the Attorney General going to authorize the special prosecutor? He says yes, but then in that case, how independent is the special prosecutor? I'm saying that these are not, dry questions. These are questions which will come to fore. The issues of principles will come, and that is where, an Attorney General may say, look, you should do it this way or that way. And Mr. Mathamedu may say, well, sorry, then I walk away, as in the Bugri was saying.
Yeah.
I think that...
is that the only remedy where an impasse will come and someone may be forced to walk away?
No, that is the primary thing. That's the primary challenge. You see, after all, what we want as a country, we want an independent special prosecutor. Why independent? We want him independent from the executive. Yeah. You understand? Otherwise, the executive will abuse that office and use it as a hatchet, the person as an institution, as a hatchet organization to deal with their, enemies, perceived enemies. At the same time, then the independent special prosecutor would have, the concept would have been lost. to the nation, then the desired goal is not achieved. You get me? So it is a fundamental matter. He did say, though, Mr. Matamidu did mention that maybe what we should do, we should allow the system to start and then look at the possibility of amendment. Okay. Remember, he had said that was the point we were saying. Well, that also throws up so many other legal issues.
In starting,
whether we can start with an illegality and try and correct that. I mean, these are all
but what would your advice be in starting, in dealing with this issue?
Well, I think that there are institutions. Personally, I think that there are institutions of state which are capable. Yeah, there's a motley of them. You know, EOCO, DPP, and all that. That's a public prosecution. All that. I think, like what Mr. Batamidu earlier suggested, is we need to strengthen, you know, infuse and strengthen, say, the office of the Attorney General. That's what do you call it? Instead of building a whole new institution, maybe we could have strengthened the office of Attorney General with independent persons. You see, like he rightly said, the lawyers in the Attorney General's department are largely independent when it comes to going to court, determining cases, you know, while standing on their feet in court. You get me? So what is it, you know?
So you don't think the OSP, using that expression, was necessary in the first place?
Well, like, I think that, like Mr. Batamidu, it's we probably could have done something else, you see. But he did indicate that he had some discussions with the president. And the president said, don't forget that Mr. President had been an Attorney General himself. So he says that his own understanding of the situation reads that it may be difficult to even achieve that, you know, because of the institutional challenges, you understand, how much the people will be paid, running the office, you know, bureaucratic setup and all that. It's a very, very, very difficult, difficult position for us.
You also referred to how the president said the perception out there when an Attorney General carries out prosecutions is that he's only doing the job of the president and he's only going after, like you said earlier, perceived enemies of the president. So he's trying to decouple that corruption fighting role from the executive.
Yeah, but there are other ways of doing that also, you know, by decoupling the Attorney General from the Minister of Justice. You understand?
But that's an entrenched clause in the Constitution.
Yeah, so you go ahead and then, this is what, like Martin said, the areas we could go and look up to amend. We made the Constitution. We as a people can look at it and say, well, this is what we want. You then get the people to back it in a referendum process or whatever it is, if it is, you see. Because it's a very, I'm saying that it's a very serious matter. I don't see it only as the debate that went on, what do you call it, in Parliament. It's not really, unfortunately, that because of Mr. Martin Amidu as an individual, his background, where he comes from, you know, in terms of his party relations and all the battles he's fought. That what created the challenge, greater challenge. Yeah. But otherwise, we need to put all those things behind us and then look at the issue from principal position. I think that we need, you know, strong, you know, people, strong institutions to fight corruption. But I'm saying that even just setting up another corruption could be another layer, you know, administrative layer, creating more bureaucratic thing can create more problems, you know, and lose the integrity of the battle. If the people who will be employed, you know, they will go out, Martin and others will go out and employ people they perceive to be, you know, great. You get me? But the police service do not set out to employ people to be working in the street collecting money. You get me? But if the institution, it happens, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Okay. But I'm saying, I mean, we should see it more as building an institution, giving birth to a new institution. How would it be like? Deformed, whatever it is, and all that, you know.
Okay. You've been a chief of staff before. Let's rely on that experience. If something like this were to happen in your time, what would be the conversations going on among governments? government officials?
Oh, I mean, it would be interesting to find out from the current government officials. I mean, what is it like? I think I've read a few comments from some MPP, what do you call it, apparatchiks and supporters who are also equally nervous that this establishment may end up being, one to be used to attack them. So it is a dicey matter. But why should we be nervous? If it's the right thing, let's go ahead and do it. If we think that corruption is such that is draining the energies of the country, then of course we must confront the issue headlong. Maybe the what is worth remembering is that Mr. Martin Amidu comes into office with the strength of his whole force, conviction and whatnot, to do what? To set up an office, to drive it so that even when he leaves, like he said, his legacy, we have an enduring establishment.
Finally.
But that is a dream.
Yeah, of course. Finally,
which I hope it materializes.
Yeah. Finally, before we wrap up, Dr. Dominic Ayine has sent this case to the Supreme Court. He's saying that Mr. Amidu is too old, according to Article 199. He's a public officer. He's 66, and by 65, all public officers should be retired. What do you make of the case?
No, of course. I mean, otherwise, my answer is very obvious. This is a matter before the Supreme Court. I'm sitting here just getting ready to go to court. On my own. It is unethical for me to comment on a pending case. I mean, I think it is good. What I would say is that it is good that when such issues come up, we use more civilized approaches to resolution of these conflicts. By going to court and asking the court to determine whether the person qualifies or doesn't qualify, than to be using cutlasses, guns, vigilantes, and whatnot to resolve this issue.
But away from the specific case, some have argued that you could be denying public officers of some expertise which would be available to them normally if you were to go by this interpretation of Article 1.
There are very good public policy reasons why the age limit is also set. You understand? I mean, if you go and read the various material back, including the Constitutional Review Committee, you understand it. I mean, there are many more people out there, unemployed, youth, very brilliant ones, they are saying they passed law school and all that, they are sitting out there, and then people who are in excess, over the age, quote, which you set up, are just marking time for another 5 years. What happens? We are talking about unemployment and all that. So without regard to this specific case, I don't know the merits of it. I haven't read it. But I'm saying that there are public policy reasons why the legislation says retirement should be at 60 for some people, 65 for some people, 70 for some people.
Ato Dadzie, thank you so much for joining us this morning on News Desk. You're still watching News Desk on Joy News on Multi TV. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll be telling you about Lassa fever.